Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're broadcasting from the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity, and I'm your host, Corey D. Taylor. My guest today, he's been here before, but he's none other than Abe Cruz. Abe is here to talk about his new book that is going to lend inspiration for all walks of life. If you want to know what it's like to go from being in a bad position in life to turning your life around to getting to a good place in life, you come to the right place. So stay tuned because this is Up Close with Corey Taylor. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We have an amazing show today. We have our residential fitness expert in the house, Mr. Abe Cruz.
How we doing? What's
going on? And
good,
then I'm
good.
also joined by a special guest, Dr. Gina Pasalia. How are you?
I'm good.
All right,
Hello, Abe. It's good to meet you.
So we're going to have an amazing show today. I wanted to bring you on the show. First of all, I'm going to ask you the question that I always ask people, because even though people have seen you before, it's always interesting because you're an interesting guy. And every time I'm always bringing you back because you got something interesting. But before we get to the juicy stuff, you got a new book that's coming out.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Tentatively, it's called Mindset of a Champion right now.
It's that. We're going to leave it that. Mindset of a Champion. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the journey. Mindset of a Champion. And I think everyone out there can relate to it. They just don't know it.
Right.
But they all have it. They have it in them. So
Now I know before, because you wanted to save it in the shows past, we didn't go off into deep detail. But I know with the book, it's going to be a lot of heavy content that you're going to be dropping on people. But before we get into that, because I want you all to be on board, what you been up to lately, man?
Man, it's been a blessing. I always have to start with that because I know without God, I'm not able to do these things. So I've been so fortunate. I just got back on like a 14, 15-day trip. I was in LA doing photo shoots. Wow. I did 6 different interviews out there on radio, on TV, CBS Radio, Roxy, Ruby, The Trend Talk. I went back. The Trend Talk has a season 2, so they brought me back.
Wow.
So Naiba Bell, I appreciate it. Tracy Lynn Cowan, Jody Hart in Vegas. I did interviews all over the place. We did a photo shoot with Noel. I guarantee you're going to see some new covers. I already have a new cover, actually.
Really?
Mi Mundo magazine. I'm crossing over now to the Spanish market.
Good job.
So, yeah.
Do you speak Spanish?
Sí, como no.
Sí, qué bueno.
So, man, that was just a blessing. I was in Las Vegas.
Wait. What? You speak Spanish?
Sí.
Oh, okay. I feel odd right now. Hola. You know what I'm saying? Unos, dos. No, go ahead.
No, but, the whole trip, when you asked what I was doing, I was out there working, grinding, promoting the book. And I want to make sure we get into you and how you fit into the book, too. So make sure we go back to that. But while I was in Vegas, I was at one of my hotels having dinner. And I met this gentleman. He had this energy of power and energy, his charisma. You could just hear him talking to people. Anyway, long story short is he was the owner of Mi Mundo magazine.
Wow.
And we talked for like 15, 20 minutes. We got into a little bit of our story. He has an incredible story himself. He's from Brazil. He was a big designer in Brazil. Some stuff happened. He went out of Brazil, came to the U.S., and he's doing some big things. And he said, that's it. You're on my next cover.
It's that simple. You know what? And speaking of
amazing,
energy, Dr. Gina, when you are out there, Dr. Gina does a lot of stuff with like laws of attraction, energy work, but it rooted in the Christian faith.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about that, because it was interesting that you said that. You said he had a lot of energy. And so, Dr. Gina.
Yeah, it's almost like what we expect. And the energy, in the Bible it says we're light beings,
Right.
we are lights.
Right.
But what happens to that light? Don't let your light be dark. So it sounds like you got a really light energy with expectancy, and boom, it just draws people to you. That's amazing. It's not coincidence, is it?
And that's crazy, because ever since I've known Abe, that is the mindset he's had, and that's part of the mindset of a champion. Abe, but we know that there was a time where you didn't have that mindset.
No, it was the complete opposite. It was the best way I can explain it is just arrogance, cockiness, just entitlement. You know what I mean? So you're kind of surpassing the expectations. It's like you're not demanding it, but like it's an arrogant energy that's not good.
Wow.
So yeah, absolutely.
And see, in my own life, I've experienced that too. We hear stuff like "good thing come to those who wait," but what they don't understand is a lot of times that the waiting is not just this hopeful thing, but it's an expectation that it is going to happen. And a lot of people think that's kind of like all mystical and stuff, but there is a real science behind expectation or self-prediction or self-fulfilling prophecies, and that's the thing that you experience because you have not always had it good.
No, absolutely not. And that's where I get into my book. And now I'm telling the world, because I've gone on multiple interviews, and I'm going to be doing a lot more. I have a lot more lined up in my mind and already on paper. The mind was just wrong. I was thinking of the wrong things, doing the wrong things, hanging out with the wrong people, and that's what got me locked up in prison. And that's how I get into the book. I talk about a lot, just being a parent. You know what I mean? Is sometimes you make so many decisions, and you're not thinking about everybody around you, your loved ones, your brother, your mom. You affect everybody with the decisions you make. So I obviously hurt a lot of people in my past. However, I had to humble myself. I had to get down on my knees and pray and ask for a second chance at life. And since then, it's been nothing but a blessing.
Wow. So I wanted to say this because I noticed also, Dr. Gina, she does stuff with child work. And when we were dealing with, because I had an opportunity to, be a part of your process of your book.
Yes.
When we were dealing with your book and you were talking about, this stuff going back from when you were a childhood. Right. I know you have a chapter in there talking about growing up and not good enough to stay.
Not good enough to stay.
Tell us a little bit about that, because Dr. Gina, I think I'm going to say get a kick out of this, because this is her stuff she do with grown men about her childhood
work.
Yeah,
we talked a little bit about that when we
did.
met each
Yeah,
other.
we talked a little, and it hit me instantly. But the chapter "Not Good Enough to Stay" pretty much breaks down my experience with my father. For whatever reason, I was 3-4 years old. I had a brother and a sister. He, whatever reason, felt he just had to go on. He had to move on. He wasn't there for the family. He decided to pick up and go, and left my mom with me, my brother, and my sister. And instantly we went from what I could understand at 4 years old, we had a decent little house, to now, I'm in the projects. I'm dealing with roaches and welfare and all of these kinds of things. And instantly it hit us because my mom's crying every day.
Wow.
So now I can feel it. So in the book, I really get into parenting. I get into why would a father leave his child? Why would a mother? I'm not singling out anybody. That was just my personal experience.
Oh, correct.
But why would a father decide to leave his children for whatever reason? And all I could figure out at this point is maybe I just wasn't good enough for him to stay.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And man, I am so glad, before Dr. Gina, I know you want to jump in here and say something, but I am so glad that you
Can you see it?
I can see it. She like, you like, well, and it's so interesting because, I tell people, I only bring people on the show that I'm interested in what they are interested in, because I'm hoping everybody will be interested in. But the thing that I am excited to see is that you're finally coming out and telling the whole story. Because I know in the past when we had you on the show, I would try to go there a little bit, and you was like, but now it's, and what is your response now that you're telling that story?
Well, what's funny is that half of the people and the fans and the people I've connected with through social media and online is they had no idea about it. You know what I mean? A lot of people, there's people that saw me on Millionaire Matchmaker way back in the day, where I got into the story, but I didn't specifically tell it all. So prison, drugs, money, DEA, parenting, all of that is it's out in the book now. So, but everyone is so heartwarming and comforting. So I'm so grateful.
So that's in your new book. The other book kind of went into your prison stay.
No, this is the book currently that will be coming out. It pretty much documents from my childhood to today.
Oh.
It tells the whole story of me growing up in poverty, to becoming a star athlete, to going to college, leaving college, coming back to LA, getting caught up with the wrong people, prison, and then now what? The overcoming the obstacle.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the interesting thing about kids is that before the age of 5, they actually develop most of their meaning formation, even though logically they don't know it. You know, you're absorbing more energy at 5 than any other time in your life. So kind of the meaning formation of a little 4-year-old being abandoned is one, they're egocentric. So something must be wrong with me that my dad left. And so then comes the whole cycle of having to prove yourself, but then again, the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Yeah, you know, growing up, I definitely, you know, will understand that, because playing sports, my mom didn't even have a chance to come see me play. She was always busy working 2 or 3 jobs.
Wow.
So I was always with Coach, you know, and Coach Oscar was a blessing. You know, I love the Cepeda family out in Los Angeles. They took me in and my brother in as their own family and really were there to help me. But getting a pat on the back and a hug from him and those kinds of things really energized my childhood. You know, by the time I was 11, he was already talking to me about college.
Wow.
Man. Now, let me ask you this question, because it's interesting what you just talked about childhood. But, Abe, how much of what you went through in your childhood do you think played a role in how you got in trouble?
That's a tough question. Well, I was poor. Poverty is kind of the first thing that comes to my mind, right? So I grew up with everybody having new shoes, new sneakers. They got the Nikes on.
I've been there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, it got to the point where I was stealing.
Wow.
I mean, I got in trouble, I think, at 11 for shoplifting. And I need to actually go back and edit that and put that in the book.
Whoa, you just had a lightning
but
moment.
I was at like a CVS or a Walgreens, and I stole wristbands for a championship game that I wanted to play in. You know, I wanted to be like Jordan, put on the band. So, you know, little stuff like that. Or, I mean, I did some clothes and some shoes just because that's just where my mind was. But I was obviously headed in the wrong direction making those decisions. So how did it affect me? I was hungry and I almost was willing to do anything to not feel that. I was bullied. I was made fun of. I had acne from the time I was like 9, 10 years old all the way through high school. So I've always had skin problems anyway. You know, and if you see in prison, you could see my mug shots.
Yeah, we have that picture. We're going to put that up.
And my acne is just, and I'm talking about all over the place.
Yeah, I thought someone had punched you in the face. I'm like, who beat you
no,
up?
No, that's what my mom thought as well. But no, man, nobody ever even tried to do anything in prison. So I had a tough upbringing. Like I was saying, bullied, made fun of. But as I got older, things kind of just started to change. There's a lot better. Athletics, confidence-wise, grew and, you know, all that. But I don't know. I can't give you a straight answer how it affected me.
Well, you know, the thing I hear is that you had that deficit, that loss, and, you know, it's almost like the child self is behind the door and it's always waiting to barge in. We're like, I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to listen to you. Stay away. But it'll barge back until you resolve it. So sometimes when we get to be adults, it re-barges in and says, we're going to resolve this. So, you know, that whole bad decisions and kind of self-sabotaging could have well been the child self kind of coming to meet terms with you. It
makes sense.
Yeah.
and you know, that's what's so crazy. That's why I bring Dr. Gina on, because while we were doing your, you know, the initial start of your book, it was interesting because
I want to make that clarify that.
Okay.
Like I actually wrote the book.
Oh yeah,
I didn't hire a ghostwriter.
No. That's what I'm saying.
Corey helped me.
No. The initial start of your book, I'm talking about just kind of helping you get your ideas together.
Yeah.
No, you definitely wrote the book, of course. But I wanted to bring that up because my point is that even though I had already known you,
right,
as we started going through that process of organizing your thoughts and everything, I started learning more and more stuff out about you that I never knew.
Right.
You know, and that was the thing that I was like excited that, I mean, we sat down for hours and your brain was just pouring out all of this information.
Right.
And I was just like, whoa, like, dude, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? And I got more and more excited to be a part of that initial journey with you. So when you were sitting there and then you went into writing it, because, you know, I've always congratulated you on it because it took you less than, it was like a month or?
It was like less than 50 days.
Right.
And half of that, like 12 days of that was me moving into a new place, a new house, and having to get stuff organized.
You wrote a book in 50 days?
Yes, he did. He did.
Oh
it was
Almost
one of the most
pages.
And I've written
inspiring.
2 books. I've written 2 books, which is the reason why you kind of talked to me
Yeah,
to help you organize it, because you were like, yo, I gotta write this book. These agents want the book. And I was like, but hey, what? And I was like, and I remember, I was like, well, I want to hear it from your agent. And then the agent gets on the phone. He's like, yeah, we need this book like yesterday. And I'm like,
right.
What? And then we went right there. From that day, we went and sat in Starbucks. And then you was like, okay, where do I start? I said,
3-4 hours,
right.
right?
He was like, where do I start? And I said, well, first of all, I don't even know where to start. I just know this much about you. And then you just start pouring it out. And then you walked away with a little skeleton of chapter outlines.
Yeah.
And then you would call me 3 days later. I'm through chapter 3. Wait, what?
Yeah.
How many pages you at, Abe? Oh, I don't know, man. I'm just through chapter 3, and it's a lot of pages. And I got to go back and add more stuff. And I was like, what? Call you 15 days later. Where you at? I'm in chapter 5, 6.
Yeah.
No, maybe about 8. What? And then I'm like, dude, do you realize that you're on a record pace to like write this book in like less than 30? I thought it was going to be 30 days if it wasn't for you moving.
Yeah,
and then you just went crazy.
I actually had to tear down the kitchen of where we moved into. I had to tear down the cabinets and the drawers and repaint them all white. They were brown, so I had to redo all that, and that took me like 12 days.
Right. Wow.
So I ended up doing that.
So it would have been almost 30 days.
Yeah, it would have been almost 30 days.
And that was the pace he was on. But like I told you, when you called me, you said it's done, and I was like, right, it's done. And wait a minute, hold up. I wrote my first book, 3 weeks. Typed out 100 pages, okay? How many pages was your book when you finished?
Like 258. Yeah.
258 typed pages.
Yeah.
That's incredible, because I've written a few myself, so.
Yeah.
It's about 9 of them. but what I'm saying is, and I said, man, congratulations. And you was like, well, do you think? And then he says to me, he said, well, I left out so much stuff. And I was like, dude, you got enough information in
Save
the
it for your
book.
next book.
Right.
Right.
And so when you were going through this, and again, congratulations,
Thank
man.
you.
You know, I never take credit for it. But
I couldn't have got started without your direction.
But I
absolutely.
wanted to let people know that that's what our connection was when it came to your book, because you wrote all 258 pages or whatever in less than 50 days or whatever that amount was. And then, but my question is, when you were writing that, how much bad memories or good memories, and how much of that did you have to relive when you were writing that?
So I'm real focused on acting, right?
Right.
So I'm real focused on acting, and I think I have been for a while. And going back into these thoughts in the past, it didn't affect me. I don't know if that's the right or wrong answer.
So did you detach, kind of like
Yeah.
almost like third party
Yeah.
hovering over
Yeah.
your story of
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, I kind of just laid it out because it was embedded in the mind. It's there, so I was able to dish it out. But it affected my mom more than anything. Going back to her and saying, "Oh no, don't say that. You can't tell them that I was doing that."
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can't, So that was a little bit more. But that was me on the way to the gym talking to my mom, saying, I'm on this pace, Mom. This is what I'm going to talk about. Don't be upset. Don't be offended. It's just the reality. But never really affected, because I couldn't allow it to affect. It's my past.
Right.
When I end the book, it's funny because I said, what am I writing this book for? Like, I had multiple reasons, right? But I ended up getting a message on Facebook from a guy whose friend was incarcerated here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And the inmate messaged him and said, hey, look up Abe Cruz and tell him I want to write him, tell him to get a hold of me, tell him he inspired me for so many years because we were locked up together apparently, and we worked out together. We created workout, but then unfortunately he got out and went back in. And so they looked me up, and he said, you've inspired him. He's working out again. He wants to be a rapper, so he's been writing all of his stuff down. He ends it like this. He says, you were the one and only person who followed through with everything you said in prison.
Wow.
So I ended my book with saying, that's the reason I'm writing it.
That's right.
Exactly. And that goes back to the whole mindset of a champion thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was hearing, because when you finished that book in record-breaking time, not to be a sophomore author, but a first-time author, I'm like, whoa, Like, that's impressive. And I know your agent had to be impressive as well.
Yeah, we thought it was going to take 6 months, a year. A lot of people kind of
a
gave
lot of
those
people
numbers.
get kind of brain glitches, but you know, some people don't. Like I don't. When I start on a roll,
Yeah.
I'm on a roll.
Right,
But
right.
some people get really stuck in their writing. So it sounds like you just got on a roll and you were on a roll.
Yeah, amen. All I can say. I mean, what can I say? Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your prison stuff, because it's been fascinating to me to listen to your story. And some of the prisoners, you're a post-prison that I've seen, they talk about the rules of prison, and you got to kind of abide by those rules lest, you know, certain things happen to
Survival.
you. Yeah. So tell me how you made it through that, and what was your maneuvers through
My
that?
upbringing was the answer to succeeding.
Okay.
I mean, so I'm Latino, I'm Spanish, Mexican, Cuban, Italian, and
Yes.
you know, I grew up in Pasadena with all the brothers. So this is just my story. I grew up playing ball with
wanna
them.
hear it. I love it.
So Pasadena. So I had a little different flavor.
Okay.
And I got along with everybody. I spoke Spanish, so obviously I was good with the Latino group, the essays. But I look white. And
He's like,
So
"Man,
you kind of did a good little blend.
I
in the groups.
absolutely did, and I was respected. When I went in, I was pretty swole. I was 185 pounds, muscular. There wasn't too many people that wanted to try me, although something happened, and you know, one of the big shot callers from Pasadena that was
Okay.
in there, he called him off, so I didn't have to deal with it. But you know, I started workout groups. I started motivational teachings. We would work out for 2 or 3 hours. We would eat. We would shower. Then we would go over books, whether it was fitness magazines, leadership. I brought out John C. Maxwell, Jim Rohn.
great.
Maxwell.
But these are the
I get it.
yeah.
I get
So
it.
I had subscriptions to like Iron Man and Muscle and Fitness, and then I had friends sending me John C. Maxwell and Jim Rohn because of my network marketing days.
Right.
And that's where the self-development comes from, of keeping your mind strong to get through the journey.
Right.
So you think it was your energy field too, even there, that you had the
Yeah.
confidence
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
just stepped
yeah.
into a leadership role and people just kind of followed you into it. That's really important. What is it, the quote I read that you said, if you don't believe in yourself, no one will?
If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And I go back into obviously the prison because when I got to the work center, Frederick, Oklahoma. Okay, Frederick, Oklahoma.
Is that a real name? What is
That's
that?
the
correctional facility?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in Frederick,
Oklahoma.
It's a
I don't
small
even
little
know what
town.
that said.
Yeah, it's a small little town of a few hundred. Anyway, when I first got there, they send you out to work, and they sent me out to the streets to pick up trash for like 4 or 5 hours in the heat in the summer, right?
Wow.
So at that time, I was already breaking out. I was getting like benzoyl peroxide to put on my pimples. And so what happens when you put that on your face and you're out in the
Oh, the
sun?
sun. Oh my
So you see why my face looked the way it looked.
Oh, yeah, just
right?
kinda almost
I
polka
went
dotty.
back to the lieutenant and the warden or whoever was there, and I said, you guys got to change my job. Like, I'll be out in the next year or so, and I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a model.
That's right,
I'm going to be
tell
on TV, and you guys are destroying my future.
Right.
They like wrote me up and said they're shipping me out of there if I don't just shut my mouth.
Yeah, you got a drink.
Because I had a dream.
She had a dream.
And
Yeah,
I
that's right.
was like, can my mom send me
And
any
you
pimple
needed them
medicine?
to cooperate with you. I mean, that's all you were asking.
That's
Just
it.
cooperate with my vision.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
But I have to say this. I'm pretty sure, like the guy who wrote you the letter, I'm pretty sure that they get guys all the time who are saying they're going to do a ton of stuff when they get out.
Of course.
And they never do it.
Well, no, of course. And I was around other people that said, oh, yeah. Like, I inspired them. Like, okay,
Right.
Abe, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I said, all right, well, do it. And then when you get out and we're moving up the ladder, let's work.
talk. Right,
Yeah.
right.
No one, you know.
Okay, so I got to ask you this question because you got Mindset of a Champions, which, you know, I know it's with the agent. Well, not the agent, it's being shopped around to all of
Yeah.
the various
Publishers. Yeah.
But, and so hopefully it's coming out 2018.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal. But
Okay.
you know, I'm gonna be honest. Like, there's so much happening with my brand TC1.
Okay.
TC1, we're growing so fast into different countries now. We're into South Africa.
Is that your clothing line?
No, it's a product that I'm the face of. It's a topical
So
product.
you're a brand ambassador.
I'm a brand ambassador,
Right.
yes. And we're growing, and I just set up a distribution deal in South Africa.
Okay, so now with that being said, though, but you got to get it finished, though. So
No, it's
yeah,
finished.
no, I mean, you got to get it published. It has to get published, bro, because it's some good work. It was
Right.
some good stuff.
Right,
And
right.
other people, not just in the Latino culture, need to see it, but no matter what walk of life they're from, because you and I know we share some similar stories. Even when you started talking about your dad, I'm like, yo,
Right.
my dad. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
so
right.
it needs to be heard. Now,
Right.
what's next for Abe Cruz?
Well, let me say this. Yes, it needs to be heard, but I got to put it out there and sell millions of copies. I need to get it on it's got to be big. If I'm going to do it, the vision from prison was big. When
Are you doing it in Spanish too?
Yes, we're going to have a
Okay,
Spanish version. I need the right publishing team to come behind me and say, we're going to push this out to the English, to the Spanish. We're going to do it big. So that's why, obviously, we're waiting. We're shopping around, seeing who's the best teammate for us to get it out there and do it. But what's next? I mean, everything. I got some acting roles that I shot a film about 1.5 years ago, Night Walk, with Tommy Lister, Patrick Kilpatrick, Richie Chance, and Azizi is the director, Aziz. And they got funding for it. So he just called me and said, we're going to shoot 2018. So, we got that lined up. TC1 Gel, right now, I'm already traveling. We're headed to South Africa. China's about to open up. Like, so much is just happening. So, all of this happening is the setup for the major
kind of
launch of the book.
foundational for the
Absolutely.
launch.
Absolutely.
Wow. So
That's true.
This show, you've been here before, but it's
I
all
love
about
it, and I
helping
love it,
people
yeah.
to go on and know what it would take to be successful. Now, since you've been here before, you've answered this question quite a few times, but in your new enlightenment, what would you tell someone who were talking to you about success? What would you tell them the newfound principles you found about success?
You can't give me 5 seconds, so give me a little more.
I get you 30.
got 5 seconds.
So, I'm going to go back to, you got to believe, you got to have that faith. Go ahead and vision, go ahead and dream. And then after you dream about it, get up from that dream and then go figure out how to do it. That's what you got to do. You got to go do it. You just don't let people slow you down. But all of that is summed up. It's the mindset of a champion.
And I love it because you've been here so much. You was like, you got to give me more than 5 seconds. I got to keep up with the producers of the show. So I want to just say, man, thanks for coming again.
Thank you.
And Dr. Gina,
Thank you so much.
It was fun.
thank you for being my
Yes,
co-host.
It was awesome.
I hope you've enjoyed our show today. I would like to thank both of my amazing guests, Abe Cruz and Dr. Gina Pasalia, for joining us. Think about this. Change is inevitable, but your attitude towards that change, it is always optional. Until next time, I need you to keep looking forward.